Hello everyone and welcome to this week's video. My name is Mino Villalpando. I am the program coordinator, and on this video we will go over more CSS ruling about pretty much box borders and stuff like that, and then we'll talk more about previous CSS for the past videos. Okay, so like every other video, you guys check out our website. This is our website. That's all the information there. Check it out. There's a lot of good information here. Um, the the rules for the MESA competition are right here to the right, and then the instructional videos that we're doing are right here to the left. Remember to register. Registration is about to close. Also, if you're interested in a little bit of tutoring, if you need help, if you need one-on-one with me, my Zoom meetings are pretty much Monday and Tuesdays from 2 p.m. So here's my email. So if you're interested in the Zoom meetings, please email me with your name, school, and grade. That way I can send you the link. I'll be there from 2 p.m. all the way until the last person leaves, pretty much. Okay, so if you have any doubts, questions, or anything like that, let me know so I can help you out as much as possible. Okay, so let's get started with this week's video. So as you guys can see right here on my screen, pretty much is very is the stuff that we talked about previously, aside from change on colors, borders, and the backgrounds from the previous Zoom meetings from last week. I just left it like that, that way we can talk over it. Go over everything, so that way if you have any doubts, anything like that, I can go over with this video. But if not, remember to go to a Zoom meeting if you need more help. Okay, so very easy. I didn't do anything to the HTML aside from adding a video from last week. Okay, so last week we talked about video. Pretty much is the same thing as adding a link, just like the one on top right here on line 5. The video is pretty much the same. Okay, so it starts with the obviously a greater than sign or less than sign opening, and then video, and then the source. So the source I already have it right here. I made a pretty much a folder right here with the actual video of it, and then the width and the height of the video, and then preload, meaning what's gonna do with the controls, pretty much standard for every single thing. Now this video I pretty much just got it off of MESA, played a little bit, and that's pretty much it. Since it's only 54 minutes, it's the same video that you guys see on our website whenever you go on our about section for MESA on our actual website. It'll take you the same, is the same video, just aside from I cut it short, just for the purpose of us. We don't really need the whole video, loading the whole video. It's a lot easier just to have a minute. Okay, so let's go over our CSS. So our CSS I did change a little. So aside from last week's video, pretty much this one I added a background. Very easy. I was showing someone in the Zoom meeting last week, in the previous week, um, how to add a background image. They were asking me that stuff. So you can pretty much the same thing. So if you haven't seen the previous videos about adding background images, here's pretty much the same thing, where you put background image, obviously the colon right there, and then we have the URL. So the URL is pretty much the direction where you can find the file. Same thing, pictures, and then the name of the file, and simple as that. It gives you this pretty much like a Windows background. Okay, so and then we also have the headers right here. So the headers right here, we talked about the box shadow, pretty much the little shadow that you guys see right here. Let me make it a little bit bigger so that way you guys can see. And then take this one off, that way. And there you have it. So it's this little box shadow right here that you guys see. And then the font, obviously you can change it. I made it very, very simple. Legible. That's what you want on a website, is to have legible writing. And then we went over the border of this whole video, how to add it, how to make it more concise. And then colors, pretty much. Okay. Oh, here's the video. So on the video, obviously you just put video, and then the width, and then the border style, the border, which is the 3 pixel, and it's dotted. You can obviously change it to something solid. Uh, there's a lot of different options for the border. So obviously we can do that. So one of the things that looks, uh, we have all these elements. The only thing that doesn't play right would be the boxes. Okay, so if we look at all the headers, so ones that say MESA day, from gardens to play and what to plant, these ones, once we added the box and everything else, it literally filled it up all the way from one side of the web of the screen to the other side of the screen. So in in when we're looking at this and we're writing our code, it will look pretty much good. Aside from once we render it, it looks a little too bad. Unless you want to put the writing in the middle and stuff like that. If that's what you're planning to do, then definitely that's what you want to do. But other than that, if you want to play around with this and just cut off the extra, because as for right now, it doesn't look right. Okay, so what we have to do is go right here into our actual headers, and the good thing about this is it's only affecting all the headers. So header 1, 2, and 3, those are the ones that we're using. So I'll add another rule to this. Okay, so the other rule we'll talk about the box height. Okay, so it's very, very simple. We don't have to write anything like box border width, or just like you guys see right here on the menu. It's pretty much the same thing, just width, semicolon, and then we write it in pixels. Now there's a lot of ways to do this. We can definitely write it in pixels, and it will help out, to be very, very exact. But in other senses where the actual screen is moving around in several different screens, if it's in 4K, if it's in other displays, if it's in a TV, it's in a laptop, it's a desktop, it's on your phone and stuff like that. Most likely you would have to use percentage. Just that way it's relative to the screen of it, and it will always render properly depending on the screen size and not the actual pixels. Okay, but for right now we're going to use pixels just because we're trying to make it very exact. You can definitely use percentage, just as what I have right there. We'll go over with a solid 400 pixels, and same thing, px for pixels, and then our semicolon. It renders everything right. Run it, and there you have it. Okay, so now if we look at this, it looks pretty good. Okay, the everything is right. You can definitely have another one where you have the minimum width, the max width, and it will pretty much look just like this. That would be the max width, and then you would talk over the width and stuff like that. There's also min width as a minimum width, um, and it's pretty much the same thing. as adding a width. It just gives us a little good a good border for it, so that we don't go over it. So we have the width. Now, as you guys can see, my header 1 and 2, which is header 2 right over here, but header 1, it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. I like it. There's a lot of things we can go over. Um, Now, in a box, what if I pretty much want to add a padding? So there's a lot of things, okay? So whenever we're typing, we're doing a whole bunch of stuff, and you're actually doing a whole bunch of stuff like this, messing around with the boxes and stuff like that. The good thing we can do is play around with how much spacing it has between each one of these. Okay, so what I'm gonna do right now is we're gonna play around with the padding, but before that, what if my width of the paragraphs, what I'm gonna do just to make it more easy to see, I'm just gonna delete the background. There you have it. Um, what if the actual words and everything else is it's too constricting, meaning the width is a lot smaller. So let's play around with this. So we have the width just like what we did before. And we're gonna add 300 pixels and then run it and see what it does. So as you guys can see, it also affects the paragraph. So it makes it a little bit better, readable. Okay. Um, all of this stuff, we can play around with it, seeing what we're gonna do. Okay. Another thing we can do is for this whole thing for the centering. Okay. So now I want it to affect the whole thing. Okay. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it in the body. I'm gonna write text, and it's this one, the text align, and then we're gonna put it in the center. So this is going to be very helpful for some of you guys. You can play around with it. As you guys can see, it does move the video to here. The text is right in the middle. So let's see what it pops up. And it pretty much renders it like that. Okay. So there's a lot of things we can do with the text. There's that. If I just want to move it to the right, I can do that too, and it moves everything. So this is one way we can do that. So you can definitely play around with it. Okay. So as you guys can see, let's add right now a pretty much a border between or the paragraph. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a border. Okay, and this border is pretty much very easy. We're not gonna do anything crazy. It's just gonna be a border for us to pretty much play around with it. And there you have it. Okay, so this is very easy. It's shorthanded. Okay, see, shorthand property for same border style and color. So that's what I did. I want to show you guys the actual shorthanded. I also did it over here, exactly the same thing. This is shorthanded, where we talked about the border width, the solid, meaning the style of it, and then the color of it. If we render it, boom, there you have it. Okay, you can also play around with the padding. So padding, okay, it pretty much allows you to specify how much space it should appear between the content of the element and its border. Okay, so definitely you can play around with it. Another thing we can do is, if you guys can see this one right here, WebKit, those are for some either Chrome or Firefox, but those are older. Sometimes you actually do need them, sometimes you don't, depending on your user. Now, it's a good idea to have them for this purpose, just because we're not using that. Um, we're just gonna go straight for the padding. So then obviously, just like every other CSS ruling, we go right there, and it gives you either percentage EMs or pixels. We're gonna use pixels, so we're gonna play around with 10 pixels and see what happens. Okay, we're gonna run it, and there you have it. So as you guys can see, the borders actually went a little bit more. It looks a little bit more complete when we're talking about this. Okay, now there's a lot of different things we can do with this too. Another thing, if you want your borders not to be actually squared, you can actually make them rounded. Okay, so rounding them is pretty much same thing too. We go right here, and then we put border radius, just like this, and then we go over and do it in pixels. You can play around with it. We're gonna start with, again, 10 pixels, just because it's a nice number to have, and we can play around with it. Necessarily doesn't have to be 10 pixels. Obviously, if you want the same results as I have right here, you can go with 10 pixels, but let's play around with it. What if I have 20 pixels? Let's see what happens. So as you guys can see, it's becoming more and more rounded. If I wanted to have 5 pixels, it just becomes a little bit more sharper on the edge, just like a square or a rectangle in this case. Okay, so these are ways to do it. If you want to add a little bit more a style to it, you can definitely do that. We can also affect it on the headers. So if you don't like that, you can definitely do that with border radius, and then we go with 10 pixels, and there you have it. Okay, so obviously we would have to play around with the padding too. Padding, there you go. And then the padding, we can go again with 10 pixels. It just to keep the same theme going on. And there you have it. So you see, we can play around with this a lot, and this one will help us shape the way we're doing our borders, our boxes, and everything else like that. We're adding more rules to it. As you guys can see, my CSS is starting to become a little bit more long, and more lines adding to it, more rules, and each rule does affect it dependently on what you want to do. There's also a lot of things we can do. Okay, um, you can definitely add, make it a circle. You can do a whole bunch of things. You can play around with it a lot. Okay, there's really no limit to it as long as you understand what we're doing and how we're doing it. Then it's totally fine. So let's go to the extreme for this last one. Okay. So 5, when we're 5, the circle, the edges of it were nice and sharp. They weren't too crazy. We can go with 10 again, and then the theme kind of goes with it. Everything's nice and easy. The box shadow is pretty much the same thing too. We can definitely change the color of the box, and the background color to it. So there's a lot of things we can do, but for this border one, let's go to 100 pixels just to see what will happen. And as you guys can see, it turns into a pretty much a circle. So it looks pretty good. I like this font, Arial. Um, it's pretty good. There's a lot of ways you can do this. Play around with it. These are just rules and stuff we can play around. Okay. Um, so this is pretty much the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for listening and watching this. If you guys have any trouble with it, remember my email is nvlpando@stsu.edu. Email me anytime. I'll try to answer as quickly as possible. If you need help, join into our Zoom meetings if you want to. They start at 2 p.m. If you need more help, there's my previous videos. Uh, Currently we're number 10, so there's a lot of videos I've done, and we'll do more stuff. We'll in the next couple of weeks, I'll try to introduce JavaScript, depending on how much CSS we have to cover before the competition, if you can implement it. If not, CSS and HTML can definitely help you. JavaScript would be the brains of this whole thing. Okay. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good week, you guys.